Let's talk about factor analysis, and we also talk about validating a factor analysis. What is the validating a factor analysis? Validation of factor analysis involves assessing the reliability and validity of the factor extracted from the data. Here an overview of the steps involved in validating a factor analysis. The first step is the data screening. Before conducting factor analysis, it's essential to screen the data for outlier, missing values and normality. Outliers and missing values can distort the result, while non-normal data might affect the accuracy of the parameter estimation. Factor extraction. Choose an appropriate factors extraction method such as principal component analysis or maximum likelihood estimation. Factor extraction involves identifying a set of underlying factors that explain the correlation among observed variables. Third step is the factor rotation. After factor extraction, rotate the factor to achieve a simple and more interpretable factor structure. Common rotation method include Varimax, Promax and Oblimax. Rotation help to clarify the interpretation of the factor by maximizing the variance of loading on each factor. Fourth step is assessing the factor adequacy. Evaluate the adequacy of the factor solution using measurements such as the Kaiser-Meyer test and Bartlett test of sparsity. The KMO test assess the sampling adequacy, indicating whether the data are suitable for factor analysis. Bartlett test examine whether the correlation among variables are sufficiently larger for factor analysis to be meaningful. Interpreting factor loading. Examine the factor loading to interpret the meaning of each factor. Factor loading represents the correlation between observed variable and underlying factors. Variables with high loading on a particular factor are considered to be strongly related to the factor. Sixth step is the assessing the reliability. Assess the reliability of the factor using measurements such as Cronenbach alpha or composite reliability. These measurements indicate the internal consistency of the item within each factor. High reliability coefficient suggests that the item reliable measure the underlying construct. Examine the convergent and discriminant validity. Assess the convergent and discriminant validity of the factor. Convergent validity is demonstrated when items within a factor have high loading on the factor and low loading on the factors. Discriminant validity is demonstrated when factors are distinct from one another with the little overlap in the item they represent. Cross validation. Validate the factor structure using the cross validation techniques such as split sample validation and cross validation with interdependent samples. Cross validation helps to assess the stability and the generalizability of the factor structure across the different datasets. Interpreting result. Interpret the result of the factor analysis in the context of the research question and theoretical framework. Consider how the extracted factor relate to the underlying construct of interest and how they contribute to the understanding of the phenomena under study. By following these steps, researcher can validate the factor structure obtained from factor analysis and ensure that the extracted factors are reliable and valid representation of the underlying construct.